a lot of storm damage through the area this year. Right here in this spot in our plot, I think you can see kind of a brief recap of the 2020 growing season. As you look at some of these leaves, you'll see definitely hail damage, wind damage. In my customer territory through the 2020 season, I believe there was at least 4 separate hail events. The first one of those, few guys were able to replant their soybeans, and then after that, a lot of them it was too late for replant, so the damage to the crop occurred then. So in this spot in the plot, you'll definitely see some hail. As you look back into the plot a little bit, you'll see the crop is goosenecked from that July 11th storm, and then you will also see some drought damage where the crop had fired from the bottom up because of dry weather and drought, and some pretty substantial cracks earlier on a few weeks back before this last rain in the soil. So the other thing I like to always do at this point in time in the season is start assessing some of these varieties and trying to determine a harvest order with growers. And if guys do that on their own, producers in their own corn harvest, I think it's a key to a successful harvest. One of those things being just a push test, pushing the stalks over, determining the stalk strength that way. The other thing can be just a pinch test at the base of the stalk and determine stalk strength. If that stalk is very brittle or rigid, I think that goes a long ways. And then the other thing at this point in time in this season, just to snap some ears off, I like to just break them in half and then run a ink pen down the corn and determine where the milk line is at. This particular variety here is a little over half milk line, probably almost 3/4 milk line. So based on that, we should have black layer in this particular variety here by September 10th. So hopefully from then on, after September 10th, this hybrid will just start to dry down and be ready for a harvest. But up until that September 10th time, it's still going to be packing nutrients into these kernels here. So the other thing that I like to look for at the end of season at this time of the year when a person is scouting their cornfields is something like this, where we've got a fairly nice green stalk and that ear has started to turn colors, that husk is starting to brown up, and that should make for a good dry harvestable ear at fall when that starts to dry down easier at maturity and the husk isn't tightly wrapped around that ear of corn.
My name's Jordan Stickle. I'm an agronomist for Northern Country Co-op, working at our Alden, Minnesota location. And today we're out at our soybean variety trial here outside of Rose Creek, Minnesota. And I'm looking at just the different varieties as you're starting to see them change out here in the field. Just ahead of harvest, we're in the first week of September here, and we're starting to see the differences in maturity. Not picking up a whole lot of disease, but what I did want to show you here, as these beans were all planted first week of May, and here on my right we have a 1-1 bean, and on the left we have a 2-0, and just kind of showing you the differences between maturity. And on the same planting date, the 1-1s are starting to drop leaves and the rows are really starting to open up. These did get a little bit lodged. I think we did have a little bit of hail damage here early on. Starting to see a little bit of, looks like soybean rust starting to show up. There's no real sudden death or white mold yet, but as you compare those just one row over to the 2 zeros, they are still at a R6 stage. It looks like they're still filling the pod here, as compared with the, so just starting to change just a little bit ahead. So just trying to estimate when these will be ready to harvest. It looks like we're still a couple weeks away. We still gotta obviously get all the leaves dropped off of these and get them down to a good healthy 14%. So we've ventured our way over from the variety plot. Across the street here we've got our population trial, standing out in the middle of it. These are all a 2-0 soybean, all planted on the same day, last week April. Was just trying to see what's out here trying to figure out if there's disease out here, and it's more of a planning for future. When this field returns to beans in 2 years, we'll have an idea of where our problem issues are, and just trying to gauge even how these soybeans respond to disease, if the soybean treatment's doing anything. It's just making small observations. And what I found is some sudden death over here that's kind of early, so it's just starting to show up, and these would be the mid leaves. So it's just starting to make its way in. And so this plant did form some beans, or it's got a full pod there. It might not completely fill, but what I found over here is if you see any just random dead plants, it is most likely going to be sudden death or white mold. This one looks to be late stages of sudden death. So dug it up, pulled it out. I mean, it's absolutely fried. The beans are pretty much harvestable at this point, but it's just to watch out and just remember that certain fields are going to show sudden death, especially these were early planted beans. So as you're planting your beans earlier, work with your agronomist to find maybe a seed treatment that'll work, and even find a bean that fits that disease better. Haven't found any white mold out here yet. That one is a little bit tougher to manage. We got wide rows out here that, if you look at it, they didn't completely close the row in most spots, but that's going to help us avoid some white mold issues. But just work with your Northern Country agronomist and see if there's anything we can do to battle both of these diseases. So just a final reminder here is we're getting done checking our fields and going over the variety plot and the population study. Just want to remind guys, make sure you're getting out and checking your fields. Try not to surprise yourself when you get out in these fields and you find some problem situations. There's not much you can do about it now other than just document it when it returns to soybeans in 2 years. So get yourself a good shovel, walk these fields. I know they're a little tough right now with the branching, but those start to drop in the next week or so, and it should make it a little bit easier. But just mark where you're finding these problem areas, and we'll try to manage them 2 years from now. Good luck out there, and have a safe harvest.